What if I told you that somewhere in your house right now, in a junk drawer, a coin jar, maybe the bottom of an old purse, there's a quarter worth way more than 25 cents? Not a silver coin, not an ancient rarity, just a regular Washington quarter that most people spend without blinking. I've got a roll of them right here. 13 different dates. And some of these coins have secrets that even experienced collectors miss. One of them, and I'm not exaggerating, has been found in everyday pocket change by people who had absolutely no idea what they were holding. They spent it, just like that, gone. I'm going to break down every single date in this roll, one by one, what they're worth, what to look for, and which ones you should never ever spend. This is the Washington Quarter Series. Let's get into it. Let's set the scene first. 1978. America is tired. The Vietnam War hangover is still real. Inflation is eating paychecks alive. Gas prices are unpredictable. Jimmy Carter is in the White House trying to hold things together. Disco is at its absolute peak. Saturday Night Fever came out the year before and everyone is still talking about it. And the U.S. Mint? It's doing what it always does, quietly, efficiently, massively, making coins. In 1978, two mint facilities struck Washington quarters, Philadelphia and Denver, and they did not hold back. Philadelphia struck 521,452,000 quarters that year. Say that number out loud for a second. 521 million. Denver added another 287,373,152 on top of that. Combined, you're looking at over 800 million quarters produced in a single year. That's more than 2 quarters for every single person living in the United States at that time. So right away, you understand why these aren't rare. They were never meant to be. They were made to be used, spent, passed around, dropped in vending machines, and forgotten in coat pockets. Now here's what most people get wrong about common coins. They hear high mintage, and they immediately tune out. They move on looking for the key dates, the errors, the low population rarities. And look, I get it, but that's not the whole picture. The 1978 Washington quarter is made from a copper-nickel clad composition. That switch happened back in 1965 when silver got too expensive to use in everyday coins. So what you've got is a pure copper core sandwiched between 2 layers of copper-nickel alloy. That's why the edge looks brownish-orange when you tilt it. No silver here, not in 1978. The design itself is the classic John Flanagan portrait of George Washington on the obverse. That dignified left-facing profile that's been on the quarter since 1932. On the reverse, Frank Gasparo's heraldic eagle, wings spread, clutching arrows and an olive branch. United States of America arcing over the top. $quarter along the bottom. Clean, classic, timeless. So if it's so common, why are we talking about it? Because condition is everything in this hobby. And here's the truth about 1978 quarters that most casual collectors don't know. Finding one in genuinely high mint state is harder than you'd think. Most of those 800 million coins went straight into commerce. They got dropped, scratched, tossed into cash registers, rolled around with other coins in bags, and generally beat up. The ones that survived in pristine condition are a small fraction of that massive mintage. According to PCGS population data, truly gem examples, we're talking MS65 and above, are not common in high grades. An MS65 1978P might bring you $5 to $12, depending on the market. That sounds small, but an MS67? That's a different conversation entirely. Top-tier examples in MS67 have sold for $50, sometimes more, because so few survived in that condition. MS68 is essentially a unicorn for this date. The Denver issue follows a similar story. The 1978D in MS67 is genuinely scarce in certified holders. There's also the San Francisco proof to consider. The 1978S was struck at San Francisco specifically for proof sets, those special collector editions with mirror-like fields and frosted devices. These were not released into circulation. They were sold directly to collectors. A 1978S proof in PR69 Deep Cameo is a beautiful coin. Clean, sharp, with that dramatic contrast between the frosted portrait and the glassy background. These are affordable, usually $5 to $50, but they're genuinely pretty pieces to own. Here's a practical tip before we wrap up part 1. If you're going through old quarters and you pull a 1978, don't just toss it in the spending pile automatically. Hold it up to a good light. Look at the luster. Is it original? Are there heavy bag marks or just minor contact marks? Does the strike look sharp on Washington's hair detail and on the eagle's feathers? If it looks clean and original, set it aside. Get a loop on it. It might be worth sending to PCGS or NGC if the surfaces are exceptional. Long shots, yes, but people find problem-free high-grade examples in old rolls all the time. That's literally what roll hunting is. 1978 won't make you rich, but it's a solid, honest coin from a complicated year in American history. Every one of those 800 million quarters passed through real hands, bought real things, and moved through a country that was figuring itself out. That's worth something, even if the price guide doesn't always show it. Next up in this series, 1980. And there's more to that year than most people realize. I'll see you in part 2. See you. What does a quarter from 1980 tell you about America? More than you'd expect. Because 1980 wasn't just another year. It was a turning point. The economy was struggling under double-digit inflation. Interest rates were sky high. Ronald Reagan was about to win the presidency in a landslide. The U.S. had just boycotted the Moscow Olympics, and Mount St. Helens erupted so violently it flattened an entire mountainside in minutes. America was restless, and the mint kept making quarters. In 1980, Philadelphia struck 635,832,000 Washington quarters. Denver added 518,327,000 more. That's over 1.1 billion quarters in a single year between just 2 facilities. San Francisco, as always, handled the proof strikes for collector sets. Now here's something people forget about 1980. This was the first full year that mint marks returned to coins after being absent for years. Philadelphia started using the P mint mark on coins other than cents starting in 1980, so a 1980 P quarter is actually historically notable. It's part of that first wave of Philly-marked coins. Before 1980, Philadelphia quarters had no mint mark at all. That small p means something if you care about mint history. The composition is the same clad sandwich as all post-1964 quarters. Copper core, copper nickel outer layers, no silver. The design is unchanged. Washington obverse, heraldic eagle reverse. Clean and consistent. Now in terms of value, circulation examples are worth face value. That's just the reality of a billion-plus mintage. But here's where it gets interesting for serious collectors. High-grade examples in MS-67 are genuinely hard to find. PCGS population reports show very few examples certified at that level. When they do appear at auction, they can pull $30 to $75 depending on eye appeal and strike quality. The 1980S proof is a nice affordable piece in PR69 Deep Cameo, usually under $10. Sharp devices, beautiful contrast, a great addition to any proof set collection. Practical tip for roll hunters: look for original skin on these. Coins that sat untouched in mint bags or original rolls sometimes come out with full luster. Those are the ones worth setting aside. 1980 is a common coin with an uncommon story behind that P mint mark. Don't overlook it. Here's something that will surprise most collectors. 1981 is one of those years where the proof version of the coin is actually more interesting than the business strike, and that doesn't happen often. Let me explain. The 1981 S proof Washington quarter came in 2 distinct varieties based on the mint mark style. Type 1 has a filled S, rounder, slightly blobby looking under magnification. Type 2 has a clear S, sharper, more defined, with distinct inner curves. The U.S. Mint changed their mint mark punch partway through 1981 production, which is why both exist. Now here's why it matters. The Type 2 is significantly scarcer than Type 1. Collectors building complete proof sets specifically hunt the 1981 S Type 2. In PR69 Deep Cameo, a Type 2 can bring $50 to $100 or more. The Type 1 in the same grade, maybe $8 to $15. Same year, same mint, massive price difference. All because of a tiny S. This is exactly why you never dismiss proof coins without checking the details. On the business strike side, Philadelphia put out 601,716,000, and Denver struck 575,722,833. Combined mintage over 1.1 billion again. Very common in circulation, worth face value in worn grades, but MS-67 examples are scarce. The strike quality on 1981 quarters can be soft, especially on Washington's hair above the ear and on the eagle's breast feathers. A sharply struck, fully lustrous MS-67 example is genuinely hard to come by. When they show up certified, they move quickly among date-set collectors. The year itself was heavy. Reagan survived an assassination attempt just months into his presidency. Air traffic controllers went on strike and Reagan fired all 11,000 of them. The country was watching and holding its breath. Quarters moved through all of it, coin by coin, transaction by transaction. Check your 1981 S-proofs. Look at that mint mark. It might be worth more than you think. Pay close attention here, because 1982 is a year that serious collectors respect and casual collectors completely ignore. That gap is exactly where opportunity lives. First, the numbers. Philadelphia struck 531,000 quarters in 1982. Denver made 442,000. Still massive numbers by any normal standard, but noticeably lower than 1980 and 1981. The economy was in recession. Consumer spending was down. Coin demand reflected that. Now here's the thing about 1982 that most people don't realize. Because so many of these went into heavy circulation during a rough economic period, truly mint state examples are harder to find than the mintage numbers suggest. Coins that circulate heavily get marks fast. Original rolls from 1982 are out there, but finding gem-quality pieces takes work. In MS-66, a 1982p is a nice coin worth a few dollars over face. In MS-67, you're looking at $40 to $80 depending on the strike. Full, sharp strikes on 1982 are not guaranteed. Check the eagle's feathers and Washington's hair carefully. The 1982 S-proof is straightforward. Type distinction isn't as dramatic as 1981, but still worth examining. PR-69 deep cameo examples are affordable and attractive. Here's a broader point about 1982 that coin collectors understand. This was a year of economic pain for ordinary Americans. Unemployment hit nearly 11%, the highest since the Great Depression. People were counting quarters for real, not as a hobby, as necessity. When you hold a circulated 1982 quarter, there's a good chance it passed through hands that really needed it. That's not sentimental nonsense. That's just history you can hold. Watch for high-grade examples in old bankrolls. They're out there, and in MS-67, they're genuinely worth finding. This is where things get really interesting, and I mean that without any exaggeration. 1983 is one of the most underrated dates in the entire clad Washington quarter series. Here's why. Philadelphia struck 673,535,000 quarters. Denver struck 617,806,000. On paper, that looks like a high mintage common coin, and in worn grades it is. Worth 25 cents. Nothing more. But here's what happened. The early 1980s were tough economic years. Most of these coins went straight into heavy use. They circulated hard and fast. Original mint-quality rolls are scarce compared to later years. And because fewer collectors were paying attention to clad coinage in 1983, not many pieces were set aside in top condition. Fast forward to today. PCGS population reports for 1983P and 1983D in MS-67 show very low numbers. We're talking double digits in some cases. And when MS-67 examples come up at major auction houses, they don't go cheap. Verified sales of 1983P quarters in MS-67 have crossed $100. Some have gone significantly higher. For a coin with a face value of 25 cents, that's remarkable. The lesson here is one that experienced collectors know well. Mintage alone doesn't determine rarity in high grades. What matters is how many survived in pristine condition. For 1983, that number is low. If you're going through old rolls and you pull 1983 quarters with original luster and minimal contact marks, take them seriously. Get a loop out. If the surfaces are exceptional, consider getting them certified. You might be sitting on something genuinely valuable. The 1983 S-proof is clean and affordable. Nothing unusual to report there. But that business strike in gem condition, that's a coin worth chasing. We're back to high-volume territory with 1985. Philadelphia struck 775,818,962 quarters. Denver struck 590,962,888. Combined, that's nearly 1.3 billion quarters from a single year, one of the higher mintage years in this series. So right away you know that worn examples are going nowhere value-wise. Face value, and that's it. But here's the consistent theme across this entire series. High mintage does not mean high-grade examples are easy to find. It actually works against survivors. When hundreds of millions of coins are made and dumped into commerce, most of them get beat up. The ones that don't are rare by default. A 1985p in MS67 is a respectable coin. Clean strikes on this year can be found, but bag marks are common because these coins were moved around in bulk bags before distribution. Finding a bag mark-free gem takes patience and a good eye. The 1985D is similarly common in lower grades and similarly scarce in true gem condition. 1985 itself was a notable year in American culture. Back to the Future hit theaters. New Coke launched and immediately flopped. The first .com domain was registered. The world was changing fast and quietly. The mint kept producing quarters that nobody was really paying attention to. For roll hunters and date-set collectors, 1985 is a year to look for original bankrolls. Coins that never saw a cash register have a fighting chance at gem grades. Coins that circulated even briefly often show contact marks that knock them out of gem territory. Nothing exotic here, just a solid, high mintage common date that rewards patience in high grades. By 1989, we're in the final decade of the classic Washington quarter reverse. The 50-state quarters program was still 10 years away, but the era of the heraldic eagle reverse was quietly counting down. Philadelphia struck 512,168,000 quarters in 1989. Denver struck 896,535,597. Denver's number there is enormous, nearly 900 million from a single facility. That makes the 1989 D one of the higher mintage Denver strikes of the decade. In circulation, both are worth face value. No question about that. But 1989 is interesting for high-grade collectors because the Denver issue in particular is tough in MS67. With nearly 900 million coins produced and most going into heavy commerce, gem survivors are proportionally rare. PCGS population numbers for 1989 D and MS67 are not large. When they appear, they draw real collector interest. The 1989 S proof is clean. PR69 deep cameo examples are affordable and worth adding to a proof run. No major varieties to track on the proof side for this year. Contextually, 1989 was a massive year globally. The Berlin Wall came down in November. Tiananmen Square. The Exxon Valdez oil spill. The world was shifting in real time, and American quarters were sitting in cash registers through all of it. For collectors, 1989 is a year to watch in high grades, specifically because of that massive Denver mintage. Counterintuitively, more coins made means fewer gems survived proportionally. That 1989 DMS67 is worth finding. Now we hit a year that low mintage fans actually pay attention to. 1991 had notably lower production numbers compared to the years surrounding it. Philadelphia struck 570,968,000. Denver struck 630,966,693. Still hundreds of millions, yes, but measurably lower than the peak years of the 1980s. Lower mintage plus heavy circulation equals scarce high-grade survivors. That's the formula, and 1991 fits it well. In MS67, 1991P and 1991D quarters are legitimately hard to find certified. Registry set collectors, the people building the finest known sets coin by coin, actively chase high-grade 1991s. When they appear at auction in top grades, they attract real bidding. The 1991 S proof follows the standard pattern. Clean, affordable, attractive in PR69 deep cameo. 1991 was a significant year. The Gulf War concluded in February with a ceasefire. The Soviet Union dissolved by December. Nirvana released Nevermind and changed music overnight. America was entering a new era, though nobody quite knew what shape it would take. Quarters from 1991 moved through all of that transition. Gas stations, grocery stores, laundromats, payphones, real coins in real circulation. For your collection, treat 1991 with respect. In circulated grades, it's worth face value, but in gem condition, it's a coin that serious collectors actually want. If you find clean, lustrous examples in old rolls, set them aside. 1992 is a technically interesting year that most collectors walk right past. Let me give you a reason to stop. The US Mint made a reverse hub change in 1992 that affected how the eagle and lettering looked on quarters. It's a subtle difference, not something that jumps out at you across a table, but under magnification, specialists can see it clearly. The 1992 D specifically shows this hub transition, and varieties exist that date collectors track. Philadelphia struck 384,164,000 quarters in 1992. Denver struck 389,177,107. Both numbers are lower than most surrounding years. That lower mintage combined with the usual heavy circulation pattern means MS-67 examples are genuinely scarce. This is a year where doing your homework pays off. If you have 1992 D quarters in high grade, look at the reverse details carefully. Hub varieties on clad coinage don't always command massive premiums, but they matter to specialists and can add value in the right context. The 1992 S proof came in both regular clad and silver versions. Yes, silver. Starting in 1992, the Mint began offering silver proof sets alongside the standard clad proofs. A 1992 S silver proof quarter has 90% silver content and is a completely different animal from the circulation strike. These are worth real money in top grades. PR70, deep cameo silver proofs from 1992 can bring $50 to $150 or more. If you have 1992 S proof quarters, check whether they're clad or silver. The silver ones are noticeably heavier and have a different ring when tapped. Better yet, get them tested or certified. Bill Clinton won the presidency in 1992. The LA riots shook the country. The Barcelona Olympics ran that summer. A complicated year for America, and the Mint produced fewer quarters than usual through it. That lower mintage matters in high grades. Pay attention to 1992. Mid-90s now, and 1995 brings us back to high-volume production. Philadelphia struck 1,336,000 quarters in 1995. That's over 1 billion coins from a single facility. Denver added 103,216,000 more. Combined mintage over 2 billion quarters from 1 year. 2 billion. In worn grades, these are worth exactly 25 cents, and always will be. There are simply too many of them. But here's the thing. Even with 2 billion coins made, the gem survival rate follows the same pattern. Most circulated, most got marked up. True, MS-67 examples are a tiny fraction of that massive output. For date set collectors building a complete run of clad Washington quarters, 1995 is a required date. Finding it in gem condition for a reasonable price is actually easier here than on low mintage years, simply because more examples were preserved by collectors at the time. The hobby was growing in the mid-90s, and more people were setting aside nice coins. The 1995 S proof comes in both clad and silver versions again. The silver proof is the one worth looking for. In high grades, silver proof quarters from the mid-90s are solid collectibles. 1995 was the year of the Oklahoma City bombing, the O.J. Simpson verdict, and the first version of Windows 95 launching to massive lines outside stores. America was busy with big events. 2 billion quarters moved through all of it, without anyone noticing. Clean original examples from mint sets or original rolls are worth keeping. The rest spend as intended.
Stop everything. This is the most important part in this entire series. 1996 has a secret that a lot of people have found in pocket change, without knowing what they had. And if you've been paying attention through this whole series, you're about to understand why 1996 is different from every other year we've covered. The US Mint struck a special quarter in 1996 at the West Point facility to celebrate the 65th anniversary of the Washington Quarter design. The 1996 W It was included exclusively in 1996 mint sets sold directly to collectors. It was never released into general circulation through banks. But here's what happened. Some of those mint sets got broken up over the years. Coins got spent. And 1996 W quarters started showing up in circulation, in change, in coin jars, in rolls, found by people who had no idea they were holding something special. If you have a 1996 quarter with a W mint mark, you have a coin worth $10 to $20 in circulated condition. In MS-65 or better, significantly more. In certified MS-67, real money, most people spend them. Don't be most people. Philadelphia struck $925,000, $40,000 in 1996. Denver struck $906,000, $168,000. The West Point issue is a tiny number compared to those. That's exactly why it matters. Check every single 1996 quarter you come across. Look at the mint mark on the obverse just to the right of Washington's ribbon. P means Philadelphia, D means Denver, W means West Point, W means keep it. The 1996 S proof also comes in clad and silver versions. Both are worth adding to a proof collection. But the 1996 W Business Strike is the coin of this entire series. If you find one, do not spend it.
Coming down from the excitement of 1996, we land on 1997. Solid year, nothing dramatic, but worth understanding completely. Philadelphia struck 595,640,000 quarters. Denver struck 599,680,000. Roughly equal output from both facilities, totaling about 1.2 billion combined. High mintage, common in circulation. 1997 quarters in worn grades are worth face value. That's the reality. But mid to late 90s quarters in high grade are consistently tougher than collectors expect. The hobby was growing and more people were setting coins aside, but the sheer volume of production meant that most coins still circulated heavily before anyone thought to preserve them. MS-67 examples of both 1997P and 1997D show up in PCGS and NGC population reports in relatively small numbers. Not dramatically rare, but not common either. For registry set builders completing a high-grade date run, 1997 requires some searching. The 1997 S proof is available in clad and silver. The silver proof in PR69 or PR70 Deep Cameo is a quality coin worth including in a proof type set. 1997 was the year Hong Kong was handed back to China. Princess Diana died in August, and the world stopped. Dolly the sheep, the first cloned mammal, was making headlines. The internet was becoming real for ordinary households. Quarters from 1997 are everywhere. Finding a gem is less common than people assume. Worth checking your examples carefully before spending them. And here we are. The final coin in this roll. The last date in this series. 1998. 1 year before everything changed. In 1999, the 50 state quarters program launched and transformed quarter collecting overnight. Suddenly everyone was looking at quarters. Folders and albums sold out. Kids started collections. People checked their change for the first time in decades. But 1998 is the year before all that. The last quiet year of the classic design. The final chapter of the heraldic eagle reverse before the states took over. Philadelphia struck 896,168,000 quarters in 1998. Denver struck 821,000. Combined, over 1.7 billion coins. A massive final push for the classic design before the program changed everything. In circulation, worth 25 cents. Always will be. But here's the angle for collectors. The 1998 quarters are the last of their kind before the hobby exploded. When the state quarters launched in 1999, attention shifted completely. Pre-state quarters from the late 1990s got overlooked, which means fewer people were carefully preserving them right at the moment when collector attention moved elsewhere. High-grade examples of 1998P and 1998D and MS-67 are tougher than you'd think given the massive mintage. The timing worked against preservation. The 1998S comes in clad and silver proof. The silver proof in top grades is a solid piece worth owning. And there's something meaningful about 1998 as a closing date. Every coin in this roll, from 1978 all the way through, represents a slice of American life. Gas stations and grocery stores, vending machines and parking meters, laundromats and corner stores. These quarters pass through millions of hands, doing ordinary things in ordinary moments. None of them are silver. Most aren't rare. But every one of them has a story. And now you know how to tell it. That's the complete series. 13 dates, 13 parts, one roll of Washington quarters that turned out to be more interesting than it looked. Thanks for watching. If you found this series useful, share it with someone who thinks clad quarters are boring. Because nothing in this hobby is boring if you know where to look. See you in the next one.